everyone, in this video I'll be talking about what is unconditional love and how to experience unconditional love. To put it simply, unconditional love is the building block of everything in the universe, and it is present within each and every one of us. Unconditional love can also be called universe, source, consciousness, God, whatever you wish to call it. Unconditional love is not something someone else can give to you or that you can give to someone else, but rather it is something that you feel within yourself. Unconditional love is our soul's deepest desire, to be loved exactly as we are and to be able to express ourselves exactly as we are. Because unconditional love is what we are. So the reason why we are here on earth is to experience this unconditional love in our own unique perspective. And this unconditional love is always there within us. It is the source of who we are. But we block and allow the flow of this unconditional love based on whether or not we feel worthy of experiencing this love. So we tend to look for unconditional love in the external reality. But unconditional love is not something that you can find in the external reality because it's a feeling, it's an energy that is within us. Unconditional love is an energy of non-judgment, acceptance, allowance, and surrender. And it is near impossible to experience unconditional love when you are operating from the place of the ego. The ego is the opposite of unconditional love. The ego's baseline programming is resistance, judgment, fear, and lack. So if you think and operate from the place of your ego, your physical mind and body, unconditional love is impossible to understand. Because the ego thinks from what is right or wrong, what is good or bad. From the perspective of the ego, there are so many things that are unacceptable. And you may think, if God loves everyone unconditionally, how can God allow everyone to suffer like this? And that is a very valid feeling and experience to have. It's important to realize that what we think is right or wrong from the human perspective is not the same way that God and the universe sees everything. From the human perspective, of course, it's unfathomable to think no matter what you do, you will be loved unconditionally. And this is precisely why we need the ego to experience unconditional love. Because the ego is the opposite of unconditional love, it provides that stark contrast for us to be able to understand what is the opposite of unconditional love so that we can know what unconditional love is. You can experience unconditional love when you are able to step back and observe your ego instead of identifying with it. When you step back and observe, and you see your own ego with the perspective of unconditional love, acceptance, non-judgment, ego will dissolve momentarily and you can have the experience of unconditional love within yourself. And when you do, you realize that you are unconditionally loved so much that you are allowed to hate God. And we are unconditionally loved so much that we can even choose to not live this life anymore if we wanted to. And we have the freedom to hate God, not believe in God, and even believe that we are not unconditionally loved. That is how unconditionally loved we are. However, this is still a bit difficult to understand because if you spent your whole life as this person with this set of beliefs, it's really hard to separate yourself from them. And for a long time as well, I struggled to understand how exactly can I love myself unconditionally and how I can best embody this energy of unconditional love. So I used to ask myself, if I see all this suffering and pain in the world and I see all these parts of myself that I do not like about myself, can I just say that I accept it and I love them unconditionally? Because that's a lie. It is a lie when you tell yourself that you love yourself unconditionally and you love the world unconditionally, when clearly you feel a resistance, disgust, pain, and you have all of this judgment towards it. And this is backwards because I was trying to unconditionally love what I see in the external reality. Unconditional love is a process that happens within you. So it is to unconditionally love the part of you experiencing that feeling. So it is to unconditionally love the feeling and allow the feeling of resistance, fear, disgust, and judgment arising within you. Everything that happens in our external reality is a reflection of what is going on within us. The internal comes first, and then it's reflected in the external world secondarily. Therefore, the experience of unconditional love happens within us first, and then it is reflected in the external reality. So, unconditionally loving yourself doesn't mean that you tell yourself, I am beautiful, I am worthy, I'm enough, when you feel unworthy and ugly. Unconditionally loving yourself means that you accept the part of yourself experiencing that pain. Unconditionally loving yourself means that you stay there with yourself as you're experiencing this pain. You stay there with the part of yourself that is in so much pain because she believes that she is unworthy and ugly and not enough. You stay there with the pain and fear of ending up alone. And you tell that part of yourself, even if that happens, I will never leave you. You don't try to change how you feel by telling yourself, it's okay, you're not ugly, you're beautiful. You allow yourself to be completely honest about how you feel. And you don't judge how you feel. You allow that feeling to exist for as long as it needs to. This can only be possible when you can step back to observe your feelings. You can't really do this when you are enveloped in the pain and resistance of fighting against these feelings. When you step back and observe your feelings from a perspective of non-judgment, acceptance, compassion, and love, you create distance from these feelings. You separate yourself from your feelings and you're able to observe them from a different perspective. You observe that you're resisting your feelings. You observe that you feel numb. You observe that you're in so much pain from having to feel these feelings by yourself this whole time. A lot of people misunderstand what unconditional love means when it comes to other people. Unconditionally loving yourself does not mean that you stay in situations in which are not loving for yourself. Situations that end up in self-betrayal. Unconditional love can only be experienced within you. It's not something that you can give to someone else or that you can get from someone else. So when it comes to other people just act as a mirror for what we are not unconditionally loving within ourselves. We are all connected and we all come from a singular source. And we are always creating our reality from what is within us. And everything that happens in our reality is reflective of what is suppressed in our subconscious, with no room for error. And we create the interactions that we have with other people in a way that helps us realize this truth about unconditional love. When you are trying to unconditionally love someone else, it can be really difficult because the parts that you heavily suppress and judge within yourself is reflected in them. And not just what you suppress within yourself, but the collective consciousness as a whole. So what the collective suppresses and judges within society is also what is reflected in your reality. So this means the heavier something is judged, the stronger it'll appear in your reality. So for example, if you suppress a lot of anger within yourself, and you judge this anger and you tell yourself, I cannot show this anger, otherwise people are going to leave me and they're going to think something's wrong with me. And so you pretend that you don't have any anger. You erase this feeling of anger. Then what's going to happen is you will manifest people who reflect the suppressed anger back to you. Over and over and over until you have no choice but to want to express this anger. To allow it to exist within yourself. So this anger is coming back to you over and over again to tell you, hey, I deserve to exist. I have a reason for being here and I want to be accepted and unconditionally loved as a part of you. But if you keep denying this anger and keep suppressing it, keep pretending that it's not there, it's going to keep happening until you have no choice but to explode and express it. Until you realize the reason why this anger is appearing over and over in your reality, and you purify and heal the root of this anger, it's going to keep coming back. This doesn't mean that you have to be an emotional trash can for these people's anger, but it serves you to understand why that anger is there, because there are no feelings that come into your reality and exist without a reason. And all of these people and these experiences come and happen in our lives to show us the parts of ourselves that we have abandoned, neglected, and suppressed within ourselves. These are the parts of ourselves that we try to erase by saying that if only you weren't here, I would be a perfectly lovable person. I would be loved and respected if only you weren't here. And so these parts of yourself and these emotions are coming back to you to ask you to love them unconditionally. And this is the key in experiencing unconditional love within ourselves. So you can choose to see these experiences for honest self-reflection and spiritual growth. However, the heavier you suppress this and the more you judge this part of yourself, the more difficult it is to accept and understand that that is the reason why they're here. And it's difficult to understand that everything is an extension of reflection of you and the universe. And ultimately, the reason why these things happen in our lives and these people that you cannot accept or love come into your life is because they trigger this fear of abandonment within you. At the core of this anger, annoyance, and judgment, what is at the core of all of these negative experiences is this fear of being abandoned, of ending up alone, having no one to lean on. And this pain likely stemmed from your childhood, if not in another life, or passed down generationally from your parents and your grandparents and so on. So in a sense, all of this was orchestrated and planned even before you were born. And if you think and live from the perspective of your ego and your body, of course this sucks. And of course it seems like we didn't sign up for this experience. You might think, why me? Why do I have to go through all this pain and suffering? And that feeling is valid. But if you end up getting stuck in that mindset, it is really hard to get yourself out of this cycle. If you want to release yourself from this cycle and experience the unconditional love, the whole reason why you had those painful experiences, we need to realize that all of those experiences existed in order to serve us for the purpose of experiencing unconditional love within ourselves. And you can't experience unconditional love when you keep loving yourself conditionally. When you keep putting conditions on what makes you worthy, what makes you lovable, what makes you acceptable. That's not the love that we want. That kind of love can never satisfy us. Because if we can't uphold those conditions anymore, that love is gone. And so when you love yourself conditionally, you're just running away from this fear of abandonment that is within you. It can never give you peace. So how you can use what you see in your external reality, the people, the experiences, is as a tool for you to unconditionally love yourself. Everything that triggers you in your external reality is a mirror for you that shows you, that reflects back to you the parts of yourself that you had abandoned, suppressed, and threw away in your past. People who treat you badly, people who abandon you, people who reject you, people who judge you are there in your life because somewhere in your past you suppressed the pain and the fear of being abandoned, being rejected, and you were resisting and running away from this belief that you are unworthy of love within yourself. You create the reality in which people ignore you when you ignore yourself. You ignore the feelings that you have within yourself. You refuse to listen to yourself. You refuse to show up for yourself. And you have given up on trying for yourself. You create a reality in which people vomit their anger onto you. When you suppress, ignore, and try to erase your own anger, and you don't see the validity of why that anger needs to be there. So they show up in your life to show you exactly how you treat yourself and how you treat your inner wounds. It's so easy and so convenient to blame them and to ignore what is happening in your inner world and to ignore your inner wounds. It's so much more difficult and so much more painful to acknowledge this wound and this pain that exists within you. It feels like you're dying when you actually accept and experience this pain, because it's having to experience that fear of being abandoned over again, the fear that you were running away from your whole life. It's so much more difficult to actually integrate this into the way that you treat yourself and the way that you live your life. But when you can really see it through, when you can really feel that pain and be there with yourself, you will realize intuitively that this is the reason why you're here on earth. This is the experience that you wanted to have. This was the key to unlocking the experience of what you truly wanted. And this is the reason why nothing else worked when you tried so hard. When you tried so hard to be worthy of love, when you tried so hard to fit in, when you tried so hard to be enough. This is why it didn't work. Because you were never meant to change yourself. You were never meant to ignore your pain and your wounds. You were always meant to love yourself as you are. And this is precisely what these experiences are getting you to understand. The reason why these experiences happen and you get triggered with all these feelings is for this exact reason. To free this inner prisoner that you have been locking away your whole life. The pain and the wounds that you were ignoring within yourself in your subconscious. These people that trigger you, they're helping you realize that this is what you need to let go and this is what you need to feel in order to have the experience that you truly want. So actually, they are our saviors. They are angels in disguise. They're helping you grow the love that you have within you. They're helping you expand your consciousness by giving you the opportunity to purify this fear into love for yourself, to help you have the experience of unconditional love. So instead of running away from your feelings when these incidents happen, you can truly be there with yourself. Be there with the pain, the anger, the frustration, shame, guilt, sadness, anxiety, the feeling of unworthiness, the feeling of lack, the feeling of deep loneliness. When you can be there with yourself, you will finally get to have the experience of unconditional love and acceptance, the feeling that you wanted your whole life. This is the moment when you can truly be there with the vulnerable inner child that nobody protected, that nobody showed up for, that nobody believed in. This is the moment when you can love that inner child unconditionally and to tell them that their feelings matter. And you tell them that you're really sorry for having neglected and not understood their pain this whole time because you didn't know better. And that you'll always be here for them and that you will honor them and their existence. This is the love that we truly want. That is unconditional love. When you can truly accept yourself and your inner child in your most vulnerable, fearful, and painful state, the state that you're in when you don't want anyone seeing you because you feel so ashamed and guilty, when you can truly accept yourself and love yourself unconditionally in that moment, this is when you heal the fear and the pain that you had within yourself back into unconditional love. Everything that happens in our reality is as a result of our feelings or the experience of unconditional love within us. So when you heal this fear and you heal this wound within you, you wouldn't get triggered by these experiences and it won't be manifested into your reality. And even if it does, it wouldn't trigger the pain of this inner child. But this doesn't mean that you approach your inner wounds and your inner children with this perspective of wanting to become completely healed. Because that is also a form of resistance. And you're not approaching your pain from a perspective of genuine compassion, love, and acceptance. You will know when you're not being completely genuine because it won't work and you can't lie to yourself. So what I wanted to say in the end is that everything is unconditional love. You are unconditional love. And the external reality is not where we should be looking for this unconditional love. Use the external reality as a compass and as a tool for guiding us back within ourselves. And without fail, our external reality is going to show us the blind spots that we missed on our journey of finding ourselves and loving ourselves unconditionally. And it will show us the ways that we block the flow of this unconditional love within us by sending us people and incidents that trigger us. Thank you so much for being here and for watching. I'm wishing you all the best on your journey of being you. I'll see you next time. Bye.